Guys, we just got through closing on the transaction, and pretty exciting stuff. And so I thought it might be nice, for people to kind of get a sense of what it's like in the deal-making environment, to hear a little bit from Terry. You're a seller. You've had a company for many, many years, many employees, and a very successful company. And Evan, as a partner in Woodlawn Partners and Equity Group, as an acquirer. Thought it might be good to get a little feedback from both of you. And so Evan, why don't you share a little bit about who you are and about Woodlawn Partners and what attracted you to this acquisition, and when you contacted Oklahoma Corporate Acquisitions, and how did we help? Where did we fall down?
Sure.
What could we have done differently?
No, as we've, it's okay, I'd rather talk to you guys than the camera in the corner, but we are, as you both know, a Chicago-based private equity group of 4 individuals, and as I see us, really a balanced team of operators and financial professionals, which, as we've discussed at length, we think makes us surprisingly unique in some regards, that we spend more time focused on the operational side, the human capital, as opposed to the financial capital. And, Rob, to things that have gone well in this transaction, I would say that has been the core of a lot of good things that have just sort of flowed from that, is that same understanding. Terry, I would highly expect that you would echo the same thing, but a real sensitivity to the people behind the business. Obviously, Terry is your client, his motivation for what he's trying to achieve, but what I think helped this work so well is that you also had a very strong sensitivity to what we were trying to achieve. And so
that comfort level is something that grows on you. You just don't walk in the office and you feel comfortable, or that's a typical reaction, I think. But in Evan's case, he seemed to be sensitive to concerns that I had. I guess going further back than that, it appears that our fundamental business philosophies are fairly close. So we had some common ground there. And then as you get to know him and you see, up comes a pressure point, he's willing to compromise, I'm willing to compromise. We both seem to want to get the job done. And then...
Yeah, I think, hopefully the level of information, the depth of information that we were providing to you, we try to give a lot of that information even before you ask for some of it.
Which is huge.
And which brings some of the comfort, because we do understand what you're looking for as an investor.
Again, somebody's thought through this. If somebody can anticipate that, it's
huge. Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah. And I think that's why we had the response that we did, with people, 10 or 12 of them that were very seriously wanting to look at it, is because of the information that we were providing. It was detailed enough, and we never want to give all of it. I know that equity groups and investors, they all want to put it in the data room so that we can see absolutely everything. But then the problem that you have, you really don't want that, because then if you're the candidate that ends up acquiring the company, you really don't want everyone out there having seen all of the information about the company.
And certainly, and in what context, and boy, businesses of all sizes are rarely, I think, represented perfectly by their financial statements. Public companies with 10Ks that are this thick still doesn't really capture the essence, and that's certainly the case here, where looking at your numbers, looking at just some financials, whatever that is, I think there is also a balance there. Let's hear the story, let's then confirm, and let's start to understand this more as a process. But knowing that the quality of the information is there, I think we had here. Seeing, okay, your financial statements are in the proper order and have been there for a long time. When I start to ask questions, I get quick answers because you two have already thought through some of those things. Are great for sort of building that trust that there's something here. This is, again, a thoughtful process. We see that all the time. I'll get contacted by someone, and boy, this sounds interesting. Why don't you send me some images? I'm putting stuff together. I'll get it for you in a week or two.
Yeah.
no thanks. You know, you're getting.
And, you know, really, we, from the time of the letter of intent until closing, 4 months, just slightly over 4
Just
months.
slightly over.
And in that time of just slightly over 4 months, you went to Africa for 3 or 3.5 weeks. Then you came back and went to Colorado for 10 days.
You know, it's a stressful job. You gotta take a little time.
All of which were well
I mean,
communicated.
he's
pre-planned,
running
so
around
not a knock
Africa.
on Terry.
You're running around in Africa, and you and I are trying to hammer this and keep this thing moving along during the process.
Yeah.
So I think we did rather well in that respect.
No,
And,
I appreciate you reminding me to that time, and I would say you did a heck of a job keeping us moving through that. You know, it was a planned trip. We knew it was coming. I think we hit that about as well as we could. There was a lot of, okay, we've got some stuff to get in the day room, and then I
Right.
used most of those 3 weeks to digest myself, so that worked out pretty well. But no, I think this timing is typical. I think people tend to look at me funny when I tell them that. You know, typical in an LOI, everybody wants to put 60 days. It makes you feel better, like this is going to be done.
it's not realistic.
It never no.
Never
Yeah,
had.
that's, yeah, we talk about this went smoothly, and it was 130, whatever it was, and guess what? That's great. You know, I think 90 is a worthy target. I think, you know, where we ended up was perfectly appropriate. I don't know how it would have happened without losing something along the way. And, you know, back to how we look at our role in these businesses, the accomplishment is not closing the transaction. It's creating value in these businesses for the owners, for the employees. Certainly we benefit from that. But you know, this is kind of, we're done, you know, this is first inning kind of stuff in our mind.
It is.
And if you rush to that, it just, you know, it just, that's not how we think. It strikes us as sort of really the wrong priorities, the wrong mindset to bring into this kind of process. And so that makes me nervous both ways. When I've got a seller pushing me for, you know, the LOI, we're not going to give you more than 60 days in the LOI. It makes me very nervous that we're not looking at this right. You know, we talk a business that was built over decades, and you got to get out of it in 60 days.
Yeah.
How would that not spook me a little bit? Yeah, the flip side, you know, we talk exclusivity. I understand that I don't have the right, as a guy you've known for 2 months, whatever it was, or less at that time, to say, hey, you know, we're going to get engaged, and you can't, you know, talk to anybody else for that whole 120 days. And there's some give and take there. And so, you know, to find a middle ground and to make sure that everybody's working along the same path. Again, when it works pretty well.
Well, one thing I would assume reinforced your feelings was during that 120-day period. Of course, you had years of financial statements, but you also hit it at a time where you were watching the business in what is still a less than spectacular economy continue to trudge forward and
Yeah.
continue to improve.
Yeah.
That's got to reinforce your decision.
Yeah. No, and if you planned that, I'm even more impressed. Than that. I mean, if you really nailed that one, wow.
Just got lucky.
But I think that, you know, I'm sure you see it, but, you know, kind of retiring at the peak of your game as opposed to waiting too long, I think it's something we see people make mistakes about.
Yes.
That you sell when you have to as opposed to when you should.
And as painful as the due diligence process was, it builds trust.
It does.
Because here's the question, here's the answer, here's how we substantiate it. That's the start, I think, of everybody getting more comfortable.
So trust and verify. And
I'm curious, do you mean that both ways? I mean, certainly that's our goal is trust, but the due diligence is verified. Was that helpful to you seeing what we were looking for and asking for the substantiation?
Well, I think it was helpful for me, because obviously we're going to have some guidance, but I have a little better feel now for the direction we need to take the company. And, you know, it's taken me a little bit to get back in the mode of being able to justify what we need to do. For example,
Sure.
I told Ima that in the past, if she said she needed $10,000 for a new copier, we got a new copier. I was in a luxurious position. If we tell Evan we need a new copier, we probably ought to go forward and say, okay, this is how many copies we're generating. This is what it's costing us this way. I mean, that's the
You need a
normal
copier,
way.
Terry.
No,
You
no.
need to-
That's the normal way a business should work. And I think there's good discipline to get back into some of that.
Well, there is. You know what we've always found interesting when we're taking companies through due diligence, and actually before we even get into due diligence, like when we started visiting with you about trying to determine what the market value might be if we were to take it into the marketplace, and we started asking a lot of questions for, I mean, you, of course it's been 4.5 years, but you may remember, we went through a period of time, maybe 6 months or so, where we were asking a lot of questions. And when you do that, it stirs thoughts for you to begin to say, okay, I wonder if maybe I should tweak this, or maybe I should change the way that maybe we're ordering inventory, or how we're processing some of the orders, or how we're manufacturing, or new market penetration opportunities and things like this. And so you start learning more about the operation of your business, and perhaps how you might increase margins and things such as that. And then you and I spent a lot of time during the due diligence period, and even leading up to the letter of intent, you know, looking at some financial modeling of the company and looking at opportunities. What might they be? How would you penetrate those markets, and how do you grow? So during that process of discussion, you know, you start learning a little bit about how to hit the ground running, so that after today, I mean, it's Friday, we close on Friday, Monday, y'all are going to be ramped up, and you've already got, obviously, some ideas in mind of where you want to take
shared
Sheldon.
ideas, no question. No, and I think that same thought is very helpful along the way. And, you know, I see it, I'm sure you see it. It's very easy to sniff out what is not a thoughtful process here. And that was, from very early on, very comforting. The length of your relationship, some of the things you've done, you know, you talked about it for years. You were very aware of where the business was, where Terry's head was, how he's made some decisions, which, you know, I understand is important for you to determine how you're spending your time. You know, I can put a lot of faith in, hey, you've stuck around. You know, you've got an investment here, and there's a mutual trust that this isn't, which often happens, that kind of fly by night, maybe I'll take a look, see, test the market kind of. That's very hard for me to get excited about.
Right.
The tire kicking kind of process, and that was very helpful. You know, level of information early on is always a problem. I would love to see the data room that we ended up with.
Right.
There for me
In the
day
early
one.
stage.
I'd
Yeah.
love to see that before. That's good news.
What is it?
Is that the end of it?
Yes.
Oh, it went out on me. I didn't get to see it.
That was the final.
The funds
Wow.
just got released, and the money's in.
Yes.
Well, that is good news.